Good morning. I want to continue speaking to you about the holiness of God. We saw in the last devotion that God is holy, holy, holy. That's who He is. He's set apart, distinct from us, higher and better than we are in every way. That He is holy, holy, holy. When the Bible wants to emphasize things, it says that those things over and over again. And the only thing really that we have said 3 times to us is that God is holy, holy, holy. He's extremely holy, infinitely holy. And so as we look in these morning sessions at the holiness of God, we have to at some point turn to Isaiah chapter 6, where Isaiah says that he saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar, and he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away. Your sin is atoned for. God is holy. And here we see his holiness on display. It's what we call his glory. He is holy, and who he is shines out in glory. And it's so bright and marvelous that not even the seraphim, the sinless angels, are able to look at him. They had wings to cover their faces so they didn't see. They had wings to cover their feet so they didn't step in his presence, and wings to fly. He shines brightly like the sun, and his character is so obviously on display. Not even sinless angels can look at him. And sinners, well, we cringe away from his glorious holiness. He shines, and as he shines, he exposes us as being unclean. That's what happens here with Isaiah. Isaiah sees him and he straight away notices the sins of himself and of his people. I'm unclean because the light of the glory of God, the holiness of God has shone over him and has exposed all the dark crevices of his soul. You see, when we see how holy God is, we instantly see how unholy we are. And so it can be uncomfortable to think about him. Maybe you feel uncomfortable thinking or talking about Jesus, and maybe this is why. You see, this is about Jesus. John chapter 12 tells us that Isaiah said this because he saw Jesus in his glory. Maybe you find him hard to think about and speak about because when you see him in his holiness, it's so uncomfortable. But the good news here is this, that this holiness of God, which makes us cringe, is the very thing that deals with our sin. An angel is told to take a coal from the altar that is burning, reflecting the glory of God, to bring it and to place it on the lips of Isaiah and to make him clean. And so Isaiah hears those words, Your guilt is taken away. Your sin is atoned for. See, the holiness of God, it not only exposes sin, it burns it up. and makes the sinner holy. Holiness will burn up your sin in one of two places. Either one day when you see God face to face and you are crushed in his holiness, or at the cross where Jesus Christ was crushed instead, where Jesus Christ, the Holy One, took on all our unholiness and our sin and was punished and crushed under the weight of this great glory of God for us. You see, by faith in him, we can embrace God in his holiness. You see, at the cross, sin was completely consumed. And so we can look at him and see him face to face. So holiness, as we see the holiness of God, it can have one of two effects. Either we can cringe in terror because we know that we'll have to face it and be destroyed. Or we can actually find the holiness of God to be a place of refuge, where sinners can come, can have their sins taken away, dealt with properly and fully, never to come back because God is so holy to deal with them. And we can then rest, knowing that because he's just and perfect, he'll never punish us for our sin if we've trusted in Jesus. So he is the Holy One, and we must look to him.